Welcome to Dental Business RX. Practice success in 30 minutes or less.
Thank you for calling ABC Dental.
How many ways could you think of to market a dental practice? I guarantee you, if I gave you enough time, you could easily list out, maybe 20 or 30 different ideas that might result in more new patients or at least increase treatment acceptance and improve retention for your patients of record. But being that you don't have an unlimited budget, the big question with regards to marketing becomes which options you should or would choose. Of course, the simple answer would be the one or ones that have the highest return on investment, the ones that quote unquote work. Well, how would you determine that? Well, that's what I want to talk about in this week's episode. My name is Jeff Bloomberg and I'm your host. And for this week's topic, I want to drill down on the subject of marketing analytics. Now, I know that may not sound like the most interesting subject to talk about, but it's a heck of a lot more important than you might think. For that matter, if you talk to any marketing expert, they'll tell you that analytics is half, if not 75% of the marketing job when it comes to having a successful campaign. And this is easy to do when you know how. But that being said, I've seen it messed up in some cases horribly in probably 85% of the practices that I've looked at. So it's with that in mind that for this week, we're going to discuss simple, easy to do analytics methods for a dental office that you can put into practice this week, which should not only improve your marketing's effectiveness, it can potentially make you or save you a ton of money. So when we say analytics, what do we mean? Well, for starters, it would include an accurate measurement of whatever your marketing campaign did or didn't do. It would include things like cost, distribution, if you're sending out postcards, how many you sent out, if you're running ads, how many you ran, things of that nature. It would include which public or demographic of who received your marketing. For instance, maybe you're marketing to homeowners, or if you're trying to market a lot of restorative work, you might be marketing to people 45 or over. And it would also include the overall return on investment, the income related to that particular marketing campaign. It would also track what happened with these prospects when they finally contacted the office. Did they convert? Did they not convert? So you can get an idea of what the conversion rate is with regards to the number of people that are responding. Now, if you have this data on any marketing that you are doing, you can derive a number of things. Number one, obviously, is how effective your marketing is. Number two, which is sort of a subheading, what's the cost of your marketing per phone call? It costs me X amount to get a phone call. How many responses am I getting, from this particular marketing? How many new patients is this marketing bringing in? And then, of course, the overall return on investment, meaning, we marketed to, this group of, homeowners in this zip code, and we got this many responses and this many converted, and this is how much money the practice made. Now, this becomes even more important if you're doing multiple forms of marketing. If you're doing one form of marketing, let's say you were just doing postcards. So you're doing postcards and you're getting referrals. Well, okay, there's only two places that a new patient could be coming from, but I've never really seen that happen before. You're going to have people who saw your office because you're in the same strip mall as the supermarket they go to. You're going to have people that refer to your office, obviously. If you participate in any insurances, you're going to have patients directly referred from the insurance company or from the directory. There's multiple ways. Like I said, somebody who drove by and saw your sign. There's even if you're just doing two forms of marketing, there's still going to be more than two ways for people to come into your office. But if that's all you were doing, then this isn't that huge of a deal because you still would want to track it, but you could then kind of separate out which one. The problem is no office really does that. A lot of offices, the average practice is probably doing some form of mail marketing newsletter, and they are also doing potentially something on Google or Facebook. They're probably listed in various directories and other places. Some, if you're in a small town, you might be advertising in your local newspaper or, the Penny Saver or the Valpak or whatever, right? So where this becomes super important is when you're comparing all of your marketing to, each form of marketing to the other, you're trying to grade which ones are more effective than the other. And why is that a big deal? Because obviously, if something is really working and if I'm spending $200 to get a new patient from one form of marketing and the return is, I don't know, $1,000 per patient, after the patient comes in and they buy whatever services they're going to buy, and I'm spending $400 on another form of marketing to get a new patient, and I'm still getting that $1,000 every time this patient comes in, well then, wouldn't I just from a cost perspective want to pile on the $200 per new patient campaign versus the $400 per new patient campaign? Because I only have a limited amount of funds, right? So I'd want to probably direct more funds to the one that I was only spending $200 to get a new patient for, rather than just splitting my money up, because then I'm going to make more money in the long run. And then theoretically, if my practice is growing, I could do more marketing. So I want to be able to grade all of my marketing against all of my other marketing, also so that I'm not continuing to do a marketing campaign that's not working, because then that's just flushing money down the drain. I was going to say the toilet, but it might be a bit rude. But I'm just not throwing money away, because I've seen money thrown away. So if I can compare everything up against the other, I can, pick which ones I want to reinforce, which ones I want to pile on, do more of, which ones I might want to dial back a bit, or which ones that I want to dump altogether. And what this does for me, if I'm tracking all of this, is it actually puts me in a degree of control over my new patient flow. And I could get into this in this episode, and I have a future episode coming up just about not even internal marketing, but marketing to your patient base, because you should be doing that, believe it or not. You may think, well, they're already a patient, so I don't need to market to them. Foolish attitude. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you're marketing to everybody. But we'll focus on new patient marketing here. If you could control your new patient flow, like you knew exactly what you had to do to get 50 this month or 60 this month, or, heck, I want to add an associate. Let's jack that up to 70. It makes you feel a lot more secure in your practice. You have a large degree of control. The problem is how analytics are normally handled in a dental practice is it's all by feel and opinion. This is also how management is handled to a degree too. How good of a job is Susie doing? Well, I feel like she's not doing a good job because we had an opening in the schedule, even though Susie's statistics may be great, which you're not keeping. But, you feel like Susie's not doing a good job. Well, you see the same thing applied to marketing, right? Well, I don't think we're getting a lot of new patients from that. Or the quality of new patients from this marketing campaign is not very good. And you might have gotten 50 new patients from this campaign and 2 of them weren't so great. So then that applies to everybody. So when it comes to analytics and really management for that matter, and this may sound cold or sterile, but to me, obviously you're dealing with people and that's a whole different thing, right? You're interacting with people. That's one thing. But when I'm looking at performance, that's if it's represented properly by a statistic or a number, that doesn't lie unless the numbers are wrong. No matter how much I like a particular marketing campaign, which I've gone through this before, no matter how much I like it, it's either working, it's either getting responses and those responses are turning into something, or it is not. It's either making money or it's losing money. And, one thing you have to be willing to confront your marketing with is a degree of humility. You don't want to walk in with a ton of hubris that you know best, right? Because that is going to flash back on you pretty harshly. I haven't really gone down the hubris line myself, but I have walked in to, earlier in my career when I was doing a lot of marketing for the company. I really liked this piece. It looked really cool, but it wasn't getting response. I've had stuff that just doesn't get response at all. Thankfully, not a lot. Otherwise, I wouldn't be very good at marketing. But the point being is you have to be able to put that to the side, even though it's your pet project, and look at what is actually working. You can't just try to make it good unless someone's not sending it out when they say they are, or the responses aren't being tracked or whatever. You have to be willing to look at this with a degree of humility, and it's just numbers. Folks, it's just numbers. So if you have the numbers and they are represented correctly, you could see whether something is actually working or not. So what should this look like? We want an easy way to do this in a dental practice so that you're not just tossing money out the window. Okay. Unless I'm on the other side of the window. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, you want to make sure that you have a way of doing this. What's a simple way of doing this? Well, there are 4 basic components that you are going to want to track with relation to any marketing that you are doing. And I'll get a little bit more into this, but there are 4 basic components. First is cost. The second is response. The third is conversion, and the fourth is return. So cost would be, how much did I spend to do this? How much did I spend to print and mail these postcards? How much did I spend to run this Google ad? And if you're paying a company to run your Google ads, how much did I spend, give that company to manage my Google ads or my Facebook ads or whatever it might be? How much did this cost me? The second is response. How many responses did we get from this campaign? Because again, and I think I mentioned this last week, I mentioned it a lot in different seminars or whatever, but most people think of, what I'm going to get from especially new patient marketing is a new patient, which you're not. You're going to get a response. You're going to get a phone call, or you're going to get a form lead or a walk-in. That's what you're going to get. So I see your sign on the highway next to your office, and that got me to come to your office. That's a response. Or you sent me a postcard for a discounted cleaning exam and x-rays, or an exam and x-rays, or whatever it might be. And then I call your office after getting this postcard, or maybe the third copy of this postcard. Or I click your ad on, when I looked for dentists near me, and I call your office. That's a response. With implant funnels and some of the pay-per-click, you sometimes get a form response, where someone fills out an inquiry type form. You might get this from your website too, request an appointment. That's also a response. And obviously that has to be followed up on. But that is all your marketing is going to create, is a response. From there, it is the job of the office to turn that into a patient, right? So I'm going to want to track cost. I'm going to want to track response, because if I'm getting response, that means the marketing is doing its job. Then I'm going to want to track conversion. So I got that response. Did the person come in? And I don't want to fall into the trap of, well, we didn't get a lot of these folks in, so it's all the promotion's fault, or it's all, those are just low quality new patients. In many cases, unless your receptionist is really well trained, the problem is your office. You're just not converting them. Okay. But I'm going to want to track conversion. So cost, response, conversion, and then ultimately return on investment. Now I get asked, what horizon should I use to track return? Because let's think this through for a second. If I send out a bunch of postcards and I get a bunch of phone calls, I know a bunch isn't a number. I'll give you more real number examples later. But I get a bunch of phone calls, and then I convert, 50 or 60% of those patients to new patients, and they schedule, and then they show up, and then, we diagnose whatever treatment that they need, and we present it. That might take, depending on, what length the campaign is running. Usually I would hope within the first month, I should see some degree of return. Now, where am I going to see the maximal amount of return with regards to a campaign? It might be a few months. So normally what I suggest, if you're looking for return specifically on a particular marketing campaign, I'm going to want to look at the 1 month and 3 month numbers. So I'm doing Google pay-per-click, and I got this many responses. And okay, good. And so now I have, these are the patients that came from it. And in month 1, we made X amount of dollars. And by month 3, we had made, X plus X times 3 or whatever it is, right? Because then I can kind of see what the long-term return on this thing is. Because technically, if a person becomes a patient, from a marketing campaign, that return on investment could be going on for years, right? But let's just look at the 1 and 3 month horizon initially, because you would hope that's usually when, especially with more considerable treatment plans, these patients would have accepted, all right? Now, out of those 4 components, cost, response, conversion, return, which one do you think is most susceptible to human error and gets screwed up the most? Think about this for a second. Cost, this is your quiz of the day. Cost, response, conversion, return. Which one gets messed up the most? Well, it's not cost and it's not return, because most of those things can be generated from your financial software or your practice management software. If I'm entering the data correctly into Dentrix, Eaglesoft, Open Dental, whatever I'm using, that this patient came from X source, I can then easily run a report of what our return on investment was from Eaglesoft, Dentrix, Open Dental, etc. Cost, I just look at how much I spent. I look at my credit card statement, or I look at my checkbook. Conversion, if you've been listening to the podcast a while, you'd think that where this really gets messed up the most is conversion. To a degree, you would be correct. The conversion rate nationally is not very good. Usually it's not because receptionists are bad. They just usually aren't trained on how to do it or what it is that they're supposed to be doing. But that being said, in most cases, I can at least track my conversion. You have cloud-based solutions that you're probably using to record your phone calls, right? So I can track my conversion. The one that gets messed up the most is response and tracking response. Okay, that is the one that is most susceptible to human error. That is the one that tends to get messed up the most. Now, you might wonder, why is that? Isn't there a computer solution for this? For some reason, everybody thinks we live in Star Trek, right? Like we can just ask a computer, okay, how many phone calls did I get, computer, and where did they come from, and which ad source? There is no computer program that does that. You will get bits and pieces from different sources, but it will not collate it into one place where you can actually evaluate what is getting a response. If you're doing an implant funnel, yeah, you'll be able to track responses from your particular implant funnels, right, that you're using. If you're using Google pay-per-click, it'll tell you what ads getting clicked the most, which one generated a phone call if the person clicked the number to call. If they didn't, it won't. Okay. So you can track those various things if the person responds. But if they don't respond directly, the computer programming isn't 100% accurate. There's nothing to track referrals that's a computer solution, and there's nothing to track a billboard or radio ad. It has to be tracked by a human being inside the practice. It has to be somebody's job. There has to be somebody who pulls all this data together in one central location, and it can never be screwed up. Now, we talked about this before, the idea of a call log. I've offered it as a download before. I'll put it up on the episode webpage so you can download it. But I wanted to make a comment on these call logs because, I've said, hey, download a call log. And they're great. What is a call log? It gives you the name of the patient who called, the date they called, what they were calling about, their chief complaint, emergency, wanted an exam, etc. And the source of the call or response. Ideally, it would also show whether they were scheduled, if they showed up, and any comments with regards to the patient, can only be here for 45 minutes, whatever those comments might be, right? And again, you can download it. We also go over this very thoroughly in the MGE New Patient Workshop, which, shameless plug, great service if you want to learn how to get more new patients. We also have a marketing course on our online platform, DDS Success, that you can check out. I'll put a link to that as well. Here is where the call log gets screwed up. Well, it'll have the name. It'll have the date the patient called. The chief complaint is normally easily recorded by whomever's answering the phone. Where it gets messed up is the source. So I've looked at a ton of these call logs. I've maybe seen a couple in the last 3 years that have actually been uniformly correct. The source is not drilled down. The source becomes call in. Like, did they just magically call in? They were walking down the street and said, I need to call a dentist. I remember a phone number. Like, call in, right? Or it'll say they came from the internet. Like, what comes from the internet? Were they searching for you on the internet? Did they find an ad for you on the internet? Or it'll say something like postcard. What if you're doing 3 postcards? How do you know which one's working and which one isn't? And here's the problem. Remember, the whole idea of marketing analytics is I can then determine what's working, how much it costs me, which one I should do more of, which one I should do less of. Because again, if you think about it, if I could take any source or sequence of actions and remove any inefficiencies, let's say, you're trying to get from point A to point B, and the fastest way to get there takes 10 minutes, and the longest way to get there takes 30. The way I get there in 10 minutes is by removing all the inefficiencies. Okay. So then, I have extra time on my hands. I can do other things. Well, the same thing applies to marketing. This is one of the largest inefficiencies. The actual source of the response is not recorded. So then you are completely blind. It's butchered. You are completely blind on figuring out what marketing is working and what isn't. It just becomes this big old opinion fest at this point. So the bigger problem, the reason why I find these call logs are not worked, you could have it where whoever's recording the calls just isn't, because that could be another problem. They're just not recording all the calls, meaning they're not noting every time a new patient calls in. So you think a marketing campaign is only getting you 10 responses a month when in fact it's getting you 30. All right, that's a problem, right? So assuming all the calls are being recorded, faithfully, and then they have to get to the source. If they actually knew what to do and what was needed by you for the source, if it was agreed upon in the practice, you would start to get useful data. And again, look, I would recommend that you keep a call log in a spreadsheet because look, I'm not trying to be a big, huge proponent of spreadsheets, but they're useful in that you can filter data. How many responses did I get from this one particular thing? If you don't know how to do this or make a spreadsheet, the thing that we have as a download is a spreadsheet. But if you have trouble with spreadsheets or whatever, I guarantee you one of your team members knows how to use it and can show you how to filter it. And then you now have a call log. So you have to have an agreed upon, preferably a policy on how different types of marketing campaigns are recorded. So I'm going to give you a few examples of this. Ideally, it should be issued as something in writing at the front desk so they can see and everybody agrees on it. And if you do a new form of marketing, you should inform everybody that you're doing it. I do the same thing at MGE. If we're doing a new form of marketing, we let reception know and anybody who might be the recipient of this marketing, and then how we want it recorded, so that we can actually go back and look at, did it work? Because otherwise, we send out tons of mailings. I might get something that just says, how did the person respond? Mailing. Well, I send out 15 different types of mailings. Which one? You see? So I'm going to go through these with you to give you a couple ideas, and then you can do this for your practice based on how you're marketing your practice. So let's take a look at a couple of them. Let's start with our first one, Google. So patient calls in, you go, well, hey, how did you find out about our practice? Well, I just Googled you and I found you. Well, if you want to drill down on this a little bit, you might ask, well, did you search for us? What were you looking for? Well, I just typed in dentist near me and you came up as the first hit, or you were second on the list. Okay. Now, you may have trouble determining whether this is through your SEO, which you should be doing anyway. You should always stay on top of your SEO because that's something harder to track. Well, you can actually track where you're at as far as on the Google page, but that's something you have to continuously work on. It's not like this thing that you build and then you walk away from. But you may have trouble determining whether it's SEO or a Google ad, but at least you're getting some form of an idea. If it was a particular ad they clicked, you might ask them, what did the ad say? And there's, you could go, I could never ask a patient that. Of course you can. Everybody understands how this works, folks. Okay, good. You found us on Google. Good. What did you click? Well, there was an advertisement you had for missing teeth and I have missing teeth. Okay, great. Awesome. We can help you with that. And you just note it down. Google keyword missing teeth. Okay. Or Google, I was searching for implants near me. Okay. Google keyword implants near me. Cause then you start to get an idea of what people are responding to. Cause then guess what? You're going to want to run more of those because then you have more people calling in for implants. Right? So that's with Google. With postcards, what I would recommend if you're doing postcards or newsletters is you should have a code on the postcard or newsletter. This is the easiest way to have it not screwed up. So let's say you're doing a mailing this July of a postcard for your practice, right? Well, then put a little code at the bottom right-hand corner or left-hand or right-hand corner on the side that, not the mailing side, the other side. Put a little code that says NP724. July 2024, NP 724. So when the patient calls in and they say, hey, yeah, I just got your postcard and it says I can get a cleaning exam and x-rays for $99. You go, okay, cool. That's awesome. We're happy to schedule you. A quick question. That postcard you have, there's a little code on the bottom right-hand corner. Do you have it there? Yeah, it says NP 704. Awesome. Perfect. Thanks. Now you're recording which exact postcard got the response you wanted, because here's the thing you might not realize is sometimes people hang on to postcards. They stick it on their fridge. They leave it on their desk for a year. This could have been this postcard you were doing a year ago and you had no idea. I've seen this happen before and it was super effective. You had no idea. You abandoned it, but it's still working and you think it's your current postcard. So a code is good. If you don't have a code, you could just ask the patient, what does the postcard look like? Oh, it's got a picture of the doctor on the front. Maybe only one of those, your postcards have a picture of the doctor on the front. Or, it's got a picture of a family of 4 sitting in a park. Okay, great. You can at least note it down. You might come up with a nickname that you use internally in the practice for that particular postcard so that you can all track it. Same thing with Facebook. I found you on Facebook. Okay, was it an advertisement? Was it something your friend posted? No, it was an advertisement. Okay, good. Or a billboard. Which billboard? Or the one on, Highway 75. Like the only problem you may run into with this is in many cases, especially if your marketing is, thorough, you may be hitting the same person from 3 different vectors, right? There may be billboards, there may be postcards, there may be Google ads, right? So then they go on Google, your ad stands out because they already saw your billboard and your postcard. Fine. That's going to happen once in a while, but that is the least of your problems. The point being is in a way that isn't weird or strange, you want whomever is at reception to drill down on this so you have specifics. You don't want to get ridiculous, right? Okay, you type dentist near me, what font did you use, and where were you sitting? And it's just stupid, right? I'm being ridiculous. The point being is you want to drill down on what this person came from very simply, because then you can replicate and do more of, especially if a lot of people are responding to that same thing, you could do more of those things. Same thing with implant funnels. If you're running an implant funnel in your practice, maybe you're running multiple. Well, in that case, you're getting a form lead. So you know exactly which implant funnel it came from. So whoever's preparing the call log, I mean, it's really not a call. You want to somehow maybe have a new patient report where you have this data and then the funnel data maybe on another sheet. You want to know which funnel it came from. You know, funnel A, funnel B, funnel C, because if funnel A is getting you all these new patients, but B or C aren't, you can call those companies and go, you know, hey, dude, this funnel isn't producing anymore. You need to fix it. Or you can put more money into ad spend on the funnel that is actually working. The point being is everything I've described to you is very, very easy to do, and a computer cannot do it. So how do you use this data? If you have your cost, you have your responses, you have your conversions and your return on investment, you know, maybe it's a little spreadsheet, right? For maybe the month, right? And the ROI could be for the month or the quarter. Maybe this is prepared for you if you're the owner doctor once a month by your office manager, or if you have a PR director, your PR director. Ultimately, this has to be somebody's job. Okay. You can look at this and now you can make intelligent decisions and eliminate waste with regards to your marketing. You might look at it and go, holy smokes, you know, Facebook is really blowing up for us. Look at this. Wow. We're getting a ton of responses from our Facebook ads. How much are we spending on Facebook? Well, we're spending $500 a month. Why don't we up that to $1,500? And it looks like this Valpak isn't really getting us much of anything. Why don't we drop Valpak next time? We're going to pour that money into our Facebook ads. Do you see? So, because if you're doing your marketing correctly, and obviously the conversion inside has to be good, that might be a problem you're having as well. You're getting responses versus conversions are not very good. Well, then you might want to drill down on what's happening with your receptionist. Do you see? It's sort of like your dashboard, your marketing dashboard as to what you should and should not be doing, where potential problems may be, right? And it opens the door to improving your marketing's efficiency and effectiveness. I mean, I'm sure if I were to ask you, would you rather, if you're spending $5,000 a month to make an additional 50, wouldn't you rather make an additional 100? I mean, who wouldn't, right? So this is how you do that, by drilling down on these things. And it's something that you have to discipline yourself to do. You have to discipline your manager to do. Like, everybody has to do it. It has to be a thing that becomes a real thing. And then again, the only thing I would say is the sort of the crux of this whole thing, the linchpin of this whole thing is going to be that call tracking log. So when you put a call log in, initially when you put it in, there are going to be calls that are missed. There's going to be information that is messed up. It's something that your manager or you have to continuously follow up. You keep following up till it becomes second nature to everybody who is doing it. Okay. It has to be, because if it's not done on a routine basis and it's not continuously followed up, you're going to end up with a situation where it's just garbage in, garbage out, and you can't make an intelligent decision about what to do with your marketing. Anyway, if you do this, you can really hit your target and have a big win, which is what's important, right? So there you go. It was really kind of focusing on one little thing. I cannot overstress the importance of this to you and your practice. If you keep this thing, and how much it will save you and how much it can potentially make you and save you a lot of time and effort and heartache, especially if you're wasting money. I do hope this helps. Don't forget I put the download of the call log on the episode webpage. I also put the links to the new patient workshop and DDS Success. If you have any questions about anything I covered in this week's episode, you can always email me directly. I do answer my emails, maybe not always as fast as I should, but I'm pretty good about it, at jeffb@mgeonline.com. We'll put a link to it on the episode webpage. And if you want to find out more about MGE, you can contact us at mgeonline.com or call us at 800-640-1140. Folks, have a great week, and I'll see you at the next episode.